I got a lot of crap coming into the shop being a nobody. I had to earn my reputation, had to earn my keep, had to show I wasn't thin skinned. So they called it, that I could hold my own weight. And the guys just can't, they just give you a hard time, in this industry. They just want to know if they could break you. And if they can't break you, well, then they want to help make you.
You bet.
And that's the truth. So once I learned that, hey, you guys can't break me, help make me, they all started extending their arms and being like, cool, well, come in on your free time and show us what you got. And that's it. I just came in, same thing on my break time, swinging. I'm like, give me the hood, give me the stinger. I'll show you what I got. No, I sucked. I couldn't do nothing. But they were like, oh, he wants it. He wants it bad. And so that's when they're like, well, let me show you a thing or two. And so as I learned it and I progressed, I ended up figuring it out. Just like a bicycle. You take the training wheels off and you're determined to learn how to ride that bike. Oh boy, you're going to pedal and learn how to catch your balance.
Tradesmen built America. Not policymakers or desk jockeys, but hardworking, blue-collared men and women. Join me, Roger Wakefield, on conversations with some of the nation's most successful skilled laborers. This is the Trade Talks. So first of all, tell me, how did you get into the trades?
Well, I basically was just searching for work. That's how I got into the trades. I was just looking to stay busy and keep my butt out of trouble. So I was just looking for work. That's how I found it.
It's funny. A lot of us, I pretty much got into it to stay out of trouble too, because it kept me busy. I made good money, and I'm like, okay, if I do this, I can stay out of trouble for a little while. So that makes sense.
Yeah, that was my biggest thing. I was a troublemaker growing up. Sadly, got myself in a lot of trouble. Was told, hey, you need to find something with your hands to keep them, busy. Otherwise, you're going to get in trouble. So my mission was stay out of trouble. Get busy.
What made you find the trades? I mean, a lot of people would just go down to a local restaurant and get a job flipping burgers.
No, you're right. Actually, it was my Aunt Trickett. I have to give her a lot of credit. She'd given me a list of trades to look through and said, pick one. I'd found a railroad card place and they had welding. I said, man, I love welding. Let's check this job out. And she ended up being like, okay, cool. Let's contact them and get you in the door. She happened to know one of the guys that was running it out there and introduced me to him. He seemed to like me. He hired me. I mean, I started at the bottom. I didn't even start as a welder. I started as a bathroom janitor, cleaning and sweeping up after everybody, the grunt of the work. But I was determined just to stay busy and work my way up. I knew if I worked my way up, I'd eventually get where I wanted to go.
So you said you already knew you wanted to be a welder. Had you done welding in school?
Well,
or anything
no,
like that?
I never done any welding, actually. My inspiration from welding came from my brother's roommate, Rafael Sanchez. He built things out of metal out of his house, out of his old Victorian. He remodeled an old Victorian and used a lot of metal work, built couches, built cabinets, frames for mirrors. I was just fascinated by how he could slap metal together and build anything. I was like, wow, this guy's an artist, a metal artist. He really was. Do
you remember going in and applying for your first job? How'd it go?
For my actual first welding job?
You bet. Well, that first company that you went to work at.
Oh, yeah. So, I wasn't really going to work there for welding. Of course, that was the main goal, but, there was no welding test right out the bat. So going in there and telling them my dream, my vision, I wanted to be this welder, thought I was going to get laughed at, but they actually took me serious and embraced me and said, well, we can't start you as a welder, but if that's your dream and vision, we can get you there. And so it was really that was the spark of like, man, somebody sees something in me. I can go and get it, So it really starts with me. I felt like I had to want it. I couldn't just go in there and just I was a salesman. I had to go in there and sell myself. So I was going in there and I was like, look, man, I work hard. I'll give you everything I got. I basically give you the next 20 years of my life if you're willing to give me a shot and teach me the ropes, and I'll climb. I'll climb hard as I can. And I just think people like that. They're like, man, this guy's willing to give us his life and climb as hard as he can. And I was willing to do anything I could just to prove myself to the world.
I love the way you put that. You had to go in there and sell yourself. And I try to tell people that want to get into the trades, when you go in and apply for a job, that person interviewing you is looking for something. They're not just saying, okay, great, you want to apply? We'll talk to you. Maybe we'll find a job. Maybe we can make something for you. They have a need. They're either looking for somebody to come in at the grunt level. Mm-hmm. They're looking for somebody that has some experience that can help and learn and grow and be productive and help produce revenue. I like the way you put that. You've got to come in and sell yourself. How do you think you did that during that first job? What were your thoughts as you were talking to whoever's sitting across the table from you?
I really hadn't had much experience with this type of industry and trying to sell myself. I mean, I was just on the streets trying to sell cologne. So I was already a salesperson. I mean, my very first job was kind of like telemarketing at 17. So I was already kind of had the sales pitch in me, I felt like. And it was kind of my brother that always inspired me to be like, hey, man, life is a sales pitch. And if you can't sell yourself, then you're not going to go anywhere. So, I mean, I had this mindset. So when I was sitting across the table and I'm selling myself, it was just a shot in the dark. You know, it's like throwing a dart, and you either got to throw it hard and try to aim precise, or you just carelessly throw it. And so I was very sharp and precise on how I threw my darts. And I was just hoping I was hitting the bullseye. And when I left every meeting, I felt like, hey, I gave it all I got. I gave it my biggest shot. If I failed, I get up tomorrow and do it again.
Now, did you end up staying at that company long enough to weld?
I did. I ended up, I got a lot of crap coming into the shop being a nobody. I had to earn my reputation. I had to earn my keep. Had to show I wasn't thin skinned, so they called it, that I could hold my own weight. And the guys just can't, they just give you a hard time, in this industry. They just want to know if they could break you. And if they can't break you, well, then they want to help make you.
You bet.
And that's the truth. So once I learned that, hey, you guys can't break me, help make me, they all started extending their arms and being like, cool, well, come in on your free time and show us what you got. And that's it. I just came in, same thing, on my break time, swinging. I'm like, give me the hood, give me the stinger. I'll show you what I got. No, I sucked. I couldn't do nothing. But they were like, oh, he wants it. He wants it bad. And so that's when they're like, well, let me show you a thing or two. And so as I learned it and I progressed, I ended up figuring it out. Just like a bicycle. You take the training wheels off and you're determined to learn how to ride that bike. Oh, boy, you're going to pedal and learn how to catch your balance.
So tell everybody who you are and what you do.
What up, man? My name's Wallyz Welding World. I'm the weld professor. I weld pipe. That's what I do for a living. I'm based out of Fort Lupton, Colorado. I grew up in Bailey, Colorado in the mountains. Just a young rebel that grew up wild and crazy, that found a passion in doing something. And, I settled down, had a family, and realized there's more to life than just getting in trouble. So my saying now is when I was growing up, I got in a lot of trouble. Now that I'm growing up, I let the money pile up and double. And that's the truth, because I don't do it just for me. I got a family to feed. I got kids that I want to show. So that's what I'm all about. I'm all about family orientated and working hard and showing my people that it doesn't matter where you come from. It matters where you want to go.
You went to work at this company. What did you learn as an apprentice that helped you fine tune and understand, look, I can learn this. I can do good at this?
Well, Roger, that comes with a lot. Every question I'm asked, people want a quick, short answer. But everything, honestly, is really elaborated kind of conversation. But what I collected through that, was just, if you pay attention and you apply that attention and you store it and you're able to memorize it and then reapply it, boy, the sky is the limit. Any human being can learn anything they want as long as they're willing to think about it, dwell on it, go after it. That was the only way I was able to capture anything I wanted to do. And that's how I became the welder, was I saw what they were doing, I mimicked what they were doing, and before I knew it, I was doing it.
It's not a career that a lot of people pick. It's not, look, I've been in the union for years. I've been in construction for years. There's fewer welders than there are a lot of other trades. And I think it's, fewer opportunities. There's not as much, or not as many jobs that have big pipe that needs welded. There's structural steel welding. There's a lot of different kind of welding. What got you into the specific pipe welding?
Where I'm at.
Where you're at, absolutely.
My journey of welding kind of really started off in a pipe world, I feel like, and that's kind of why it blossomed for me. Started off at rest car, rebuilding derailed tank cars. So, big pipe tank cars. We go in there, we cut all the heater coils out that would steam, the commodity up and bleed them out through the bottom outlet valves, change of service type of things. So I just was really involved in pipe. I was digging these pipes out of the dumpster and building skate rails out of them and taking them downtown and selling them because I was just a salesperson. Pipe welding for me was just so fascinating. After that, I went to a place and built high-end luxurious passenger cars, Colorado Rail Car. Huge place doing structural. A lot of structural from the beginning because we built it from the ground up. It was fun. It was doing it, but I wasn't passionate about the structure. I ended up finding myself in the brake system, welding the pipe, because that's what I enjoyed. Bending the pipe on the Erculina a pipe bender and then fitting them up underneath the car. I was on my knees. It sucked. The cars were only like 4 feet off the ground. So it was bad on my back, bad on my knees, bad on my steel toe boots because I'm dragging them across. But that's just where I kept finding myself. I ended up leaving that place to apply for a pipe welding company because I was just so passionate about pipe welding. And I just stuck with it. I just wanted to weld pipe. Once I got to the vessel shop where they were building vessels, it was pretty much my dream at that point then to really just embrace welding and do welding. I saw these guys coming in, they're moving all these compressors out of the shop. And I was just like, man, these guys are the real deal, taking these compressors out in the field. And these guys came in just all sleeved and tatted up. And I was like, man, why you guys all tatted up? Y'all out of prison or whatnot? They're like, no, this is just blue collar. It's how we are. It's how we live. And I was just like, wow. And I think at that moment then, it kind of just took on a whole life for me. I started finding myself getting tatted up. I found myself just embracing the pipe lifestyle. I mean, I loved it. I didn't want to do any other kind of welding. And then to this day, I love all welding, but I'm very passionate about pipe welding. And when it comes to welding pipe, that's my most knowledge.
So you talked about vessels.
Yeah.
Explain what vessels are and how welding is so intricate for vessels. Absolutely.
So there's many different types of vessels. Some of the vessels that I was building were for gas compressors, and these gas compressors have scrubbers that really stand upright on the vessel or on the skid, and then your vessels will be, horizontal. They have a discharge on the bottom, and then they have a suction on the top, pretty much. And the reason they're so intricate is because of the process of what they're doing. They're really thick pipe metal, and they're able to withstand so many mountains of pressure being pumped through them. And so as they're coming out of the scrubber has all these different compartments inside of it that you fabricate inside. You got to crawl in a lot of these pipes and build them. And these pipes are big, 42 inch, 36 inch. Sometimes you'll get 16 inch diameter pipes, and you really got to try to squeeze them. I mean, I found myself with broomsticks welding way down in there with my MIG because I couldn't squeeze down in there. But there's so much to them. And not alone that, but these vessels have to be held to a very high standard. There has to be a vessel code stamp, a U stamp to be able to even build these vessels. There has to be a R stamp acquired to even repair these vessels. And these vessels aren't cheap. They're not cheap, and it takes a high skilled level person to be able to build these. And not only that, but it takes a high skilled level to be able to get certified to even build on these vessels and touch them. Not anybody can just come off the street and start welding vessels. And because they're so thick, you spend hours welding passes. You spend days building vessels. You'll spend a week putting one together, just one.
A lot of people think welding is just welding. And I like the fact that you talked about the different certifications. And I've worked on some big chill water, heating water, stuff like that. So I'm familiar with pipe welding, not to the level you're at, but I mean, enough that I ran some big jobs that we put in a lot of distribution piping. The different certifications, x-rays, different things like that. How would you explain that to somebody that they think welding is literally you pick up a stinger, stick a rod in it, and you start welding? To a lot of people, that's what welding is.
Yeah.
You're just joining two pieces of metal.
Yeah.
And I say just for a reason. There's a lot more to it than that.
Absolutely. There's so much to welding. People think that, you just show up, grab the stinger, and you put your hood down, you weld. They don't know the preparation it takes to prepare to make the weld, especially if it's a repair. And then, second of all, just anything it took to get to that point, to even learn how to do that welding, because every process for every different welding requires a different kind of skill and thinking. I mean, we're still reading the puddle and learning how to manipulate it, but it still, every different process will have a different type of skill and technique with it. So I talk about those because, I weld pipe, but I can weld pipe in MIG, in TIG, and in stick, uphill, downhill, in all processes. And so when I started my journey out into my business, I was just out there welding, right? And I wasn't getting a lot of hits. And I kind of called one of my mentors and I was like, hey, look, I think I know what to do. I just need to make sure I'm thinking the right thing. He says, what are you thinking? I said, I'm thinking certifications. And he goes, the only difference between you and everybody else is the certification. Mm-hmm. He goes, so yeah, absolutely. You're thinking right. And he goes, and if you want to separate yourself from every other business out there, from, Joe Schmo on the street trying to just stick glue together, you're going to have to get a certification to prove that you're worthy of what you're working for. And that's true, because if you're going to ask for a certain dollar amount, you can't just be anybody. You need to either be certified and insured or, just a good credibility of knowing what you're doing. Even experience is, to me, is worth, a certification. If you've been doing something for so long, I want to see it. Let's see what you can do.
And I like that because, I used to be in the union and we'd try to bring in welders and they'd have to pass a test or have a certain cert. And you bring these people in that, they walk in, they know everything. They're God's gift to welders. And then you put them in a test and they bust.
It happens.
And they're like, you know what, man? But there's a lot to it. And you've got to be not just a good welder. You've got to be mentally prepared. You have to be able to weld like that every single day. Every time you strike an arc, you've got to know,
perfection.
Look, this is perfect.
Yeah.
And I'm going to do it perfect every day. Especially when you're working on jobs with x-ray welds, stuff like that.
We're held to the highest standard out there.
You bet.
Yeah. I know all the time the guys come out there and they're like, hey, you guys are doing a good job. You're doing a good job, because we are. We're out there giving it everything we got. And it's good to hear the reassurance we're doing good. But like when we're sitting across the pipe from each other and we're welding, we're making sure we're keeping our brother's keeper. You good? You need to go back through. There's no extra, we're not going to bust. All right. And then we carry on, because if that guy across the pipe from you is being careless, that can cost you your job, and so it's just everything is held to such a high standard. And I don't think a lot of people get that. The guys putting the pipe in the ground across America are held to the highest standard, and which is probably why they make such a decent amount of money, and they do. And it's a hard job. It really is. I can't sugarcoat it. There's nothing easy about putting on a hood and being exposed to the heat that the arc is putting off. Plus you're preheating the pipe. The pipe's already hot before you touch it. And then it's repetitive, one after another, all day, up, down. So, you got to be ambidextrous, use both hands. You got to be able to be flexible, be able to touch your toes, be able to bend at the hip really well. I mean, it takes a toll on a man, jumping in and out of that rig and jumping on that pipe and being exposed to all that. Like, it's great. It's fun. It looks glorious, but behind the scene, behind the hood, that man is giving it everything he's got, because he knows his job could be on the line if he doesn't. That's truth.
So what's the worst thing you've ever seen happen?
Out there on a pipeline, or just in work general?
Out on the pipeline from a bad weld, somebody not doing something right. Any kind of crazy stories?
I've heard lots of crazy stories. Me personally, I've never witnessed anything as far as like something bad for a bad weld, because most of the guys I weld with, I felt like we're doing a darn good job. I never really welded with careless welders. Everybody was held to a high standard. If they were careless, they got ran off the job. There's usually like a 3-ding rule. You get 3 strikes and you're out. And I've been on that second line, and I've been riding the fine line. Man, I get one more repair and I'm out of here. So, you can be careless to a point. And to a point, you got to be like, all right, man, shape up or they'll ship you out.
And the mental mindset has a lot to do with it.
Absolutely.
What made you want to become so good as a welder?
It is a pissing match. It really is. The best welder out there has the bragging rights. And I wouldn't say I was after bragging rights, but the people that molded me to be the welder I was, that I looked up to, were the most phenomenal welders to this day that I've ever known with. Nick Tinsley, one of my mentors, he was just the best welder I'd ever seen in all processes. He could just pick it up and dominate it left and right, both hands, just like, this is how you do it. That's how you do it. And so that was my biggest mentor on how to weld, and he just knew how to weld. And I was like, I want to be just like this guy. And still to this day, I'm not even as good as him. I'll never outshine my master. He is definitely one of the greatest.
You talk about mentors, and mentors to me are huge. And I've hired coaches. There's a lot of things we learn in the trades. There's a lot of other things we can learn to help us move ahead and get further. You talked about you already had experience in sales. Most people don't understand. You better be a daggum good salesman.
Absolutely.
I don't care what trade you're in. You better be able to.
Salesmen are the top paid world employees of the world. I feel like, they'll take care of you. If you got a good salesman, take care of him.
If you believe in what you're selling, yes.
Well, that's it. I can't sell something I don't believe in. I have to believe in what I sell. So I believe in myself.
So mentors that taught you, what are the biggest things you learned from them?
I think the biggest thing that I get from my mentors is the respect. You don't have the respect, you ain't getting it. Better show some respect, buddy. Being young as I was, that's a hard pill for a lot of young guys, I felt like, to swallow if they hadn't been brought up being, taught to be respectful. My dad, it was yes, sir, no, sir.
You bet.
you know, you talk back to my dad, well, you better be prepared for what's coming next. And I love my dad, but my dad, you know, he did try to mold me the best he could, you know, and I think as parents, that's all we can do. We wasn't given a guidebook on how to mold and treat them. All we can go is off our past experiences. So my mentors, you know, first being my dad as my mentor, and then just my other, you know, there's so many mentors I have, but the biggest thing I get from them is, you know, even my dad is, you got to have the respect. And not only got to have the respect, but you got to have, you know, the cojones to ask for the respect, because a lot of people can't really muster up and ask for help. They're so self-pride. They just think they're going to go out and do it themselves. But I've never been prideful. I've been the first person to be like, I don't understand. What do you mean? I don't understand that again. Can you break it down a little dumber for me? Kindergarten style. Kindergarten style, baby. Okay, I get it. And so sometimes that's what it takes to be broken down and understand things. And for me, you know, I wouldn't say I was the quickest learner. I wasn't the fastest learner. I could learn. As long as I could find my way of learning, I could learn anything. And so these mentors, you know, they just, as they embraced me doing that, it kind of made me just be like, okay, I have my respect for these people down, and I'll give them everything I have. And so that's to me, that's just what I wanted. That's all I wanted. And that's all my mentors taught me. Hey, look, these are the things that are going to carry you. Being respectful and doing your hard work and being honest about it. Honesty is my biggest thing too. I always tell people honesty is my best policy, because if you can't be honest with people, then you're just as good as the lies.
You bet. How are you giving back? How are you mentoring to others? How are you helping the next generation learn? Look, it takes respect. It takes learning to try to be the best. How are you doing that these days?
Well, you know, it all starts with myself first, you know, having to be in a good mindset to give back. And so now that I'm in my life where I am now, to give back from what I've learned, you know, I feel like I do try to give back as much as I can, but I always feel like I'm reserved in a way, like I haven't given back as much as I wanted to. And so I've been amping up to really just give back in my life, because that's what I want to do. I do a lot of work for my friends. I don't charge them. You know, they're always willing to pay me. That's kind of my way of giving back to people in my community. As far as people around me that come to me, man, I'm open arms. You're around me. You want to come to me, come and learn, you know. I'll teach you a thing or two. On my social media, I'm flooded with questions daily. And my wife and I have, you know, had to set a time aside at night where I can only answer for a certain amount of time, because it'll consume me answering, you know, all the questions. But I just give back to these questions, and I give them my full honest opinion. Some of the honest opinions they probably aren't willing to accept because it's the truth, because honesty is my best policy. But then, you know, I started flooding out onto YouTube, and I really wanted to show these people and bring them under the hood, show them what they could do with this metal and how they can manipulate these rods. But it's going to take a team, and I'm trying to assemble a team, you know, to really show them. So for me, as just one person, I'm doing it all. You know, I'm behind the scenes for everything, and I feel like that's kind of taken away from my potential of giving back more. So I'm trying to take a different avenue where I can give back even more, where I'm less driven away from working all the time, because even though I'm out there in the field with my guys and I'm working, they're very well skilled. Otherwise they wouldn't be working for me. There's only so much I can teach them, I feel like, but still I mentor them, and I try to teach them there. Like, hey, look, this is how I pull measurements. This is how I fit in fab, and this is how I set my heat and my settings. But to me, I want to grow more in depth. I want to really take people in. You know, I do private sessions, workshops where I bring guys in, and, you know, I do the whole barbecue. I give them shirts. I give them hats. I try to shower them with gifts, because they're invested in me. So not only do I want them to just get gifts from me, I take them in under the wing. I take them by their hand. I show them, hey, look, this is what it takes. This is the amount of pressure you're going to need. This is when you let off the pressure. This is how you strike this rod. This is when you get out of the rod. This is how you discharge that rod. There's so much to go into welding. And it's like, that's what I really am passionate about, is being right there under the hood with them, being like, yep, you're getting it. Don't stop. Keep going. Stop. Pull out. You know, you got to really give them everything. Otherwise, it doesn't click for them. And it took a long time for it to click for me, but it took that exact thing, somebody to put their hood on, put their arm around me, and grab that stinger and show me, that's how you do it. You feel it? Okay, I'm going to let go. Got it. There it is. And that's usually what it takes. It takes somebody to just grab the hand and be like, you feel that? That's all the pressure I'm putting on it.
You bet.
And they're like, wow, it was that easy. I was like, that easy. And then they tell me I'd pay for this investment 10 more times just to learn that again. I'm like, man, that makes me feel so good. They're like, I had no idea. I've watched hundreds of videos and I still wasn't clicking for me. But the way that you just did it, that makes sense.
Yeah. And that's a good thing because we can make videos and we can show them a lot of things, but you don't get to feel it. You don't get to touch it. You don't get to understand how tight, how loose, how smooth, how easy. You don't get any of that. But you talked about your guys and the way you show them, this is how I do this, this is how I do this, this is how I do this. And I love that because when I brought in guys to the plumbing company, I want to show them how I do leak detection, which was a big deal to me, and learning to do it right and learning to be precise about it. When did you know it was time for you to start your own business?
Well, I'll be honest. I've had it on my mind for a long time. And when the pandemic hit, I went from being the elite welder that everybody loved on the job to, hey, we got to close the doors and this is the end of the road. Sorry. To coming back to the field and being like, you're our top welder, to being like, well, you got a bad attitude today? Sorry, dude. Pack your bags, you're out of here. And it really took that for me to be like, wow, these unappreciated people. Like I can't have one, like everything I've ever given you, and I can't have one day. I can't have one day. And that's why I was like, man, if I had my own business, I could have that one day. Nobody would hold me to that. So, after I got pretty much ran off is what we called it, I started kicking the can around. I said, you know what? I can do this. I got all the tools. I got all the knowledge. Let me do this. And I was out there just like, forget it. I'm not going to go back to them. And it kind of causes a little bit of a disagreement between my wife and I. She said, this is what you seeked out to do. This is what you promised. And I said, oh yeah, absolutely.
Be careful what you ask for.
Yeah, I was like,
to get it.
Yeah. And I was like, but believe this, I won't let us drown. I will keep us afloat, and I will go out there and I'll do anything I have to make sure I can provide for us. And so when the pandemic hit, it crippled a lot of people. I watched a lot of people go under. I watched a lot of business close their doors. And what did I do? I started my business in the beginning of the pandemic, or in the middle of the pandemic. And so what my saying is the pandemic didn't cripple me. The pandemic catapulted me into my destiny of where I wanted to go. It gave me an opportunity to finally be like, pick up my bags and be like, it's time to set up shop and show the world what I got now. Instead of making all the money for them companies, it's about time I make all that money. And so that's what it took. And my first year was a struggle. It was hard. A lot of just learning is what I call it. A lot of learning, a lot of sleepless nights, just determined to make it work, figure it out, because I wasn't going to give up. And that was it. My first year was hard. It was a struggle, but I did good. I did really good my first year, for just being one guy. It was just me my first year. I worked a couple friends here and there, but just little jobs. And then it wasn't until my second year that it finally worked out for me. I finally started putting the pieces of the puzzle together, started getting awarded jobs, started just working harder and believing more. Like I said, I felt like deep in my heart, I wasn't going to make any moves and I wasn't going to get rich unless I enriched the lives around me. And so that sank hard on my heart. I'm like, well, if I want to get rich and I want to make money, I guess I do got to help other people make money too. Mm-hmm. So I started hiring my neighbors. I hired my neighbor down the street to work for the company that I was working with. And then I hired a couple other neighbors. I hired some people off different states that were coming to work for me. So they were coming out of state to work for me. And I was extremely thankful for that, for them people coming out of state to work for me. And it just took off. And this year it's just been thriving and it's been great. And it's just leading to more opportunity. And I don't think I would ever stop at this point now. And I love what I do. I love being a boss. I love showing up to the job and being like, hey, this is how I do it. This is how I do it. Let me show you. If you don't like it, it's fine. I don't mind you doing it your way, but just let me show you how I do it. It's how I get it quickly. This is how I've done it efficiently in the years. And I mess up too. I make mistakes too. I'm off a number or two here or there, but I don't mess up a majority of it. Majority of it is pretty dead nuts and nailed down. But, I mess up. It's part of life. People make mistakes. My favorite saying about that is that's why they put erasers on pencils, but I don't know. That's just it.
They don't put them on welding rod, do they?
They don't. I'll tell you what, they'd say once you weld it, it's permanent.
That's right.
It's married. That's what we call it.
You bet. Now, it's neat because when you started your business, like you said, the first year was a struggle. What do you wish you knew that you know now? What do you wish you knew when you started that business?
I wish I would have really sat back more and drew out a better business plan. I kind of just jumped in the water.
Me too.
I just was like, I'm all in. Psh, swim or drown, baby.
You bet.
And so I wish I would have just put more of a business plan together and planned it a little more just accordingly to where I wanted to be. Because now that's all I do is I plan. I write down daily what I got going on. That's my biggest thing. Everything I got going on for the week, I've written it down. I've planned it. And then as the week progresses, I write everything down, changes, modifications, orders, anything. And so I'm just, I would have been more, I wish I would have been more organized. And that's the key. Once you're completely organized, you'll excel.
What's the hardest part about starting your business?
The hardest part is looking in the mirror every day and saying, am I going to go out there and be a success, or am I going to be a failure today? Because that's where it starts. In the morning when you get up and you're brushing your teeth and you're looking in that mirror, or you're doing your workout, you have to premeditate and determine what you're going to do. Because if you can't, you'll just set yourself up for failure.
Now, what do your mornings look like? I've got things written on my mirror. I've got my affirmations, things I want to look at, things I want to get in my mind each and every day. I remember before I really started growing like this, I was listening to Jim Rohn one morning, and he's talking about baking a cake. And first of all, he's talking about, I'd watch the news and there's nothing good on it. Rape, robbery, murder, crime, unemployment, yada, yada, yada. Then I go to work and I try to get all these good things out of my head. He said, it's like baking a cake. Once you put concrete mix in it, you're never going to get anything good out of it. And man, that hit me. So I started listening to morning motivational stuff. I started putting stuff up on my mirror that I want to see and I want to think about every day, because it gets my mindset right. What's your morning routine like?
Well, my morning routine has changed throughout the years tremendously. Me as well. I used to wake up and stroll the media. I've completely just changed the way my morning is, especially since I work for myself now. I used to get up extremely early. I'm talking like 5 o'clock in the morning every day. Now
that's not extremely. I used to get up at 3:30 to work out.
To me, that's extremely early, because I would always have to commute an hour and a half, 2 hours to be there at 7. So, I think that, a lot of people love to get up early, and they do. Me, I wouldn't say I get up extremely early, like 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock or anything like that, but I like to get up, between 5:30 and 7. And I don't use an alarm clock, alarm clock. And I haven't used an alarm clock for many years, but now I definitely don't use an alarm clock. My morning routine is really simple. The moment I wake up to the birds chirping. That's my favorite way to wake up. I go and get my coffee. I like to sit in my chair and look out my window and just watch the sunrise. I'm pretty much meditating. I'm thinking about everything I want to do for the day. Sometimes I got my book there and I'm writing down my ideas, looking at my day plan, what I got going on, because to me, it's all about just the day focus. What I got going on today, and make sure I'm not spreading my energy anywhere else. What's today look like? Okay, so what today looks like. So all I want to focus on today. I'm not really worried about tomorrow. Now, if events start occurring throughout the day, we write those down for tomorrow. But my morning is real simple. I wake up, I drink my coffee, I get ready, I go to work. I do my meditation. It's pretty much my conversation with God, I call it. I like to talk to God. I just sit there and I just dwell on how grateful I am. First of all, that's the very first thing I do.
Start the day.
Yeah, I get up, I drink my coffee, and I just start telling God how grateful I am for each and everything I have in my life. I mean, it comes down to having toenails on my toes, at times. Like, I'm just so grateful for anything. I see a little bird, I'm like, oh, I'm so thankful, God. The bird flew across the window. I'm so at peace in my life and thankful for it, and then I don't really ask God for much. After I'm being grateful and thankful, I just say, hey, I would just want you to place me where you want me to be today. Show me what you want me to see today, and make sure everything that I have in my life is safe under your watch, and I kind of just leave it at that. If I have some things that I'm really wanting God to pay attention to, then I'm just like, hey, my friend's suffering, and he's going through a hard time. Make sure that you have your hand on him, or so forth, anything like that.
Bet.
But that's it, man. I just wake up and I'm just grateful to be alive, thankful to be here. And give back to the world all I can. You know, my company is like, the way I live my life for my company is, hey, we're the solution to your problem, period. The people don't call me unless they got a problem, and I'm just their solution. I'm just like, here, I'm help come up with 1 million solutions. You got a problem? Call me. Absolutely. And I'll give you 10 solutions. You don't like my price? I'm not offended. That's fine. Oh, you want to leave me a bad review? I'm sorry. You didn't use my service. You didn't like my price, but you know, I got a business to run here. I'd like to fit in your budget, but sometimes I can't fit in people's budget.
I never grew up learning how to be the best, thinking I'm going to be the cheapest.
You don't grow up being the cheapest.
You don't. But I mean, there's a lot of people that they literally, they'll go out and start their business and their thought is, I'm going to set my prices so low, everybody hires me. Man, that is not a way to go in business. I never thought about being the cheapest. And I actually made a video why I'm not the cheapest plumber, or I'm not the cheapest plumber, something like that. And we went to this guy's house. We tunneled up under it. And when I crawled out, he's standing there. He said, do you mind if I tell you why I use your company? I said, no, I love that information. And he told me, he said, I watched that video. He said, and after watching that video, I knew I did not want the cheapest plumber. I wanted the best plumber because I want it done right. What do you tell people starting a business? Number one, I tell people, if you're just starting a business just to make money, that's the wrong reason. You've got to want to make the world a better place. You can want to do something different. What are your thoughts on that?
Absolutely, Roger. That's why we're the solution to your problem. Don't call me unless you got a problem. Like, if you're just calling me just to weld something and get it done, well, it's probably a problem there. And so we got to analyze the problem. We got to go in and fix the problem. Like, it's just not pack weld on top of weld. So I tell people all the time, I'm like, if you're going to get business, like you said, it's for the money, of course, but for just the money, the wrong reason. When I opened up my business, I just wanted to be a service to my community. Now, I might have been that guy starting out on the low totem pole because I felt like I'm a small business. I can't be asking for this outrageous type of money. But that's when I started making the phone call to my mentor. Hey, man, I'm kind of low on the totem pole. How can I increase that totem pole? Well, certifications is what I was thinking. Am I thinking right? Absolutely. Without that certification, you can't ask for this price. Once I got the certification, I jumped the price. Boy, the phone started ringing. Oh, you're certified welder. You can do this? Absolutely. We need your services immediately. Oh, well, I charge an immediate emergency services. Oh, well, we don't care what it is because we need it done. And I've actually had people who'll be like, oh, really? That's what you charge? That's outrageous. And I'm like, yeah, of course it is. But you have an emergency that you need done right away that's going to cost you way more than that. Right? Correct? And I try to be nice.
Disrupting my family life is outrageous too.
Well, that's it. I mean, I'm not going to come just make a quick buck because I'm not in the business for a quick buck. I'm in it for the longevity of good service for people, and they're going to come back to me if I keep doing them good service. I never try to do anybody wrong and dirty. I just feel like I've worked for people and they're just like, it doesn't matter. And I'm like, it does matter. This is your company reputation and you should care. And when I've worked for outfits that didn't care, it's just like, man, this is why I need to be in business for myself. I'll do it myself. I'll do it nice, and they'll come back because they'll know, yeah, he might have been pricey, but boy, did he do it quick, and boy, did he do it slick. And we want him back. We don't care what his price is. Mm-hmm. And that's the type of people I like to do business with. I've been told I'm expensive. Of course, yeah. Being business isn't cheap, buddy.
If you're not being told you're expensive, you don't have your prices set right.
Absolutely.
Anybody.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm not charging outrageous. Believe that. I'm not being like something that's so astronomical. They're like
part of that video I made. I'm not the most expensive either. But
there are people.
But I'm probably closer to the most expensive than I am to the cheapest.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. And it's true. You got to know what your worth is.
Yes, indeed.
Because if you don't know what your worth is, then you're just as cheap as what you're saying you are. And like I was saying, that saying, skilled labor isn't cheap. Cheap labor isn't skilled. So when you're paying cheap labor to get the skilled done, he might not be able to be up to par, And I'm not offended when people tell me they can't afford me. I'm just like, I understand. You have a budget. I get it. But what is your budget? Maybe we can work with you. And I do try to work with people on their budget. Well, unfortunately, I can't do it.
Everybody's not our customer.
Yeah, that's so true. That's true.
So, number one, I've looked at your YouTube channel. You use social media in a great way.
Thank you.
And to me, you should have 10 times as many subscribers. Your views are off the chart. I mean, freaking phenomenal.
Thank you.
What made you start doing YouTube?
You know, I just think like anybody wants to give more back to their fan base and they want a better platform. I felt like YouTube might have been a better platform than my Instagram, because my Instagram was only allowing me so long of videos. And so I just wanted to get more in depth and detail. And not alone that too, but I was wanting to bring people on the job with me and show them, hey, look, this is what I'm doing on the job. This is what it's all about. And then really just showing them what the lifestyle was like. That's what landed me there, was wanting to just engage with the audience more, you know, show them more of what I had.
Being in the trades can be a great lifestyle.
Oh, it is great.
I've got, and it's not the nicest in town, but I mean, I've got a nice house. I've got a nice truck. I've got a nice Jeep. I've got a nice Harley. And I've done all this through the trades, and I had all this even before I started my own company. What do you tell people that are thinking about getting into the trades?
Well, if you're going to get in the trade, you definitely have to show up, because if you're not showing up, you're not going to make it. You know, this trade is all about the hardworking people, you know, that want to get up in the morning and work hard. So if you're not willing to wake up in the morning and give it all you got, just stay home and collect the government money. It's easier that way. These people out here that are putting in this trade work, these people are eager to learn something. They want to be, they want to mean something to society. They want to contribute. They want to give back. So, you know, as long as you're willing to give back and you want to work hard, join these trades. I mean, that ain't really what I say at first, I guess, but like, that's what I would say if somebody's like, what would you think about getting in the trade? I really don't have people ask me to get into the trade except for just welding trade. And the biggest question I get is it dangerous? Oh boy, absolutely. I don't sugarcoat it. It is dangerous. But that
can be
yeah,
any of it.
Yeah, I'm like,
dangerous.
that's why safety's in effect. That's why you have to take safety serious. Safety should be number one. As long as you keep safety number one, that's going to protect your life, period. You know, you start breaking the safety rules, well, then that's going to cost you your life possibly. So, and I just tell people all the time, hey, look, it's really your decision what you want to do in life. If you want to pick the trade, yeah, just be prepared to show up and give it everything you got. Because if you're not showing up and getting everything you got, they're going to be the first persons to execute you out of their situation. They're going to be like, you can't cut it. Bye. But, you know, just be prepared to make it. Work hard. Otherwise, you won't make it. I mean, there might be people that make it because old Joe Schmo's daddy works for the company and he might be able to carry him and he might be worthless, but he doesn't get fired because his daddy owns the business or something like that. I got those people asking me all the time too, what do you deal with those people when you get into the trade? I'm like, you know, you just got to stay in your lane, you know. Just do you. Don't worry about them.
People will eventually weed themselves out.
Eventually, yeah. You're either here to stay or you get winged out.
You bet. So what is the biggest, most meaningful project you've ever worked on?
I would say it was the very first one I ever did when I rigged out.
Now explain to everybody what rigging out is.
So rigging out,
my tool bag's not near as big as yours.
So what it was I was working in the shop. I had another mentor of mine kind of go out in the field and was working out in the field, and he kept telling me for like a year, hey, you need to get out here. You're wasting your time in your town in the shop. All that money you could be making out here in a rig, in a welding rig. And so that was my goal, was to rig out, be in a welding rig. I'm like, man, so I work in the shop with a couple guys and they drive in with welding rigs. And I'm just like, man, these like $100,000 welding rigs put together and these custom bed and bumpers they built. And then they got a Harley they're pulling in the next day because they don't need their rig there at the shop, you know. And then the next day they're driving a cross rock. And I'm just like, well, how many bikes and cars and toys you got? And they're like, oh, well, tomorrow I'll be in my Porsche. The next day after that, I'll be in my Jeep. And then maybe I'll bring the rig back. And I'm just like, man, rig money, huh? They're like, yeah, learn how to rig out and work out in the field. You'll make some good money. So that was my goal, was to rig out. And when my friend got in the field, he said, he recruited me. He says, I'll have the company build you a truck. We'll put you in the truck. All you got to do is show up and pass the test. And I was like, for real? Like, yep, for real. And so that's what it was. I got in a company rig, which is single hand, but it was still a welding rig. It was a company welding rig, but you don't get as much money as being in the welding rig for the company because the company collects the rig rent.
You bet.
Yeah, because in a company, there's a 3 split wage. It goes your arm is what you make your money on for welding.
Golden arm.
The golden arm. I don't have one, but you can acquire one or buy one, I heard. No. And then there's the rig rent, which they'll pay you for the truck. And then there's a per diem usually. And so that's how them rig welders out there are making their lifestyles off those split checks like that. And it's a great life if you can stack the hours and make a good arm wage and get a good per diem and get a good truck rent. Yeah, absolutely.
I've known welders to make $5-6 grand a week. Those are union welders that go out of work somewhere.
Okay.
What's the best week you've ever seen a welder make out in the field?
Well, me, when I used to work for the jobs out there and I worked the circuit, I think the best I was pulling in was like 12 grand a week. And that was being a contractor, working out of state, getting a per diem. And I was banking it. I was killing it. I mean, in a short period of time, I was like, well, where'd all this money come from? And I was like, well, you've been out of state for about a month now. And I'm like, oh, yeah.
Yeah, putting 60 grand in the
Yeah, I'm like, I'm coming home. I'm tired of this and dragging up. And she's like, what do you mean? You're making such good money. Why are you dragging
Mama
up?
says, no, you ain't.
Oh, yeah, it was bad. And I was just like, nah, I can't do it. One thing I never liked to do was be away from the wife and the kids.
Yeah.
I never, ever wanted to have an emergency where I had to flee the job and try to get there for something just uneventful to happen. So I've been a backyard pipeliner, they call me. I ran all the pipelines in my backyard pretty much, all across my state, and Weld County is where I'm from. And Weld County has had just a tremendous amount of pipe welding in the last 12 years, and I've been able to capture almost all of it,
Isn't it funny that you're Wally the welder and
from Weld County? Yeah.
Dude, I love that. No,
yeah, people,
when I read all that, I'm like, man, this guy just fell right in it.
I did. It was kind of awesome that I met my wife in Weld County. We moved away, we got married, moved to Denver. And we just ended up back in Weld County. It ended up being right where we wanted to be. It's our home. We like Weld County. I really enjoy it.
Do you ever see things go so wrong that you thought, I need to get out of this? I need to do something else?
At a job?
Either at a job or in the beginning of your career. Did you ever just have a day where it's like, look, everything's going wrong. I need to get out of this. I need to find something else.
Absolutely. I think everybody does. It's a kind of a flight type of deal. There's been jobs I definitely, even on a rig job, I've packed my bags on them and like, this is sketch and I'm out of here. It happened years ago. I went to go work for a contractor and tried to make it work, but, got cold feet and didn't want to do the contracting yet. So wanted to go back to my split job, and man, he got all mad at me for, just bailing on him. I said, look, I was just trying to help you out. Sorry that things ain't working out on my end for your benefit, but hey, it ain't. I'm being a man. I'm going to tell you, it ain't going to work out for me. I got somebody that could fill the position for you, but he wasn't having it. It's people in general. Sometimes people, if it's not going their way, it's the highway. And sometimes I'll pick that highway. I've dragged up on many jobs where I'm like, it isn't working out. I'm gone later.
Have you ever thought about getting out of welding?
Oh, all the time. All the time.
It's
I think
a tough life.
It is rough. I can't sugarcoat it. It's taking a toll on me, man. I feel like my face is all burnt up. I know my body's all burnt up, It's, I do worry about my health. People ask me all the time, you worry about catching cancer? Absolutely. You don't think I don't worry about in my old ages that I'll be croaking and dying from this stuff? Yeah.
Unable to breathe.
Yeah. And so, luckily in my younger ages, I was a runner and I was very athletic, and, that's been able to help carry me and keep me, fit and stuff like that. I did breakdancing growing up for many years. I've just always been a pretty fit kid, and
breakdancer, rapper,
snowboarder, rock climber, you name it, jump out of airplane. I do it all. It doesn't bother me. I've always been kind of a risk taker and a rebel growing up. And I guess that's kind of what landed me into welding. I wanted to go somewhere where the misfits were. And I kind of say that about welding. It's where all the misfits ended up that really didn't get an opportunity or a chance in the world to prove themselves. So they're under a hood trying to prove themselves that they can outweld you.
You did pick a career where you have to cover your face to make a living. That's a scary thought there.
Oh, man.
You've never heard that before, I know.
All day.
There you go.
Under the hood, just staring into the black mist until the fire lights. Yeah.
You bet.
So I don't know if you know this, but my very first logo on my Instagram is me holding the ball of fire, and he's got his hood up and he's got a skull. So that's symbolic to my dad telling me I was going to melt the eyes out of my head by the time I was 50. He says, you're just going to burn your eyes out of your skull. So that's why I'm holding that ball of fire with no eyes, because I truly feel like that's where it might lead to. Well, I'll be able to,
and how old are you right now?
I'll be 40 this year.
So you already know how your eyes feel. Or are you going to burn them out by your 50?
Nah.
No?
Nah, my eyes are still strong, I feel like. But still at times I'm still like, what does that say? So I do feel like it's taking a toll, absolutely.
It is.
Yeah, I know it is.
I mean, no matter, it takes a toll on our breathing. It takes a toll on our vision, on our hearing.
Yep.
I'm
big on hearing. I wear earplugs. I hate the sound of things being smacked and grinded. I always have. I've always just hate loud noises unless it was music, then I enjoyed it. But yeah, I hate not wearing earplugs.
I worked with a welder one time, kind of as a laborer. I was doing some stuff, but man, cool job. At one point, I thought I wanted to be a welder. Then I realized I was way too smart for that.
Jesus.
But the guy's grinding, and I'm over working on something else, and he comes over and he's got a denim shirt, and I mean his denim shirt is gone,
all burnt up.
No, the grinder rolled all the way up his arm, and he's like, "Man, look, I'm headed to the hospital. I've already called my brother. He's gonna meet me." I'm like, "Dude, do you need me to drive you?" He said, "No, we got to finish." But the grinder had come up his arm and just, I mean, opened it wide up.
Jeez. I probably would have passed out if I saw that.
And I'm tougher than that. I could handle that.
I'm just a welder. Remember that.
No, I got to talk to your wife last night talking about you and blood. So
I don't do it.
Any guy that passes out when he gets his own tattoos, that's kind of scary. You know?
It is. You know,
but the
I'm a dead client.
I know. I'm just a dead client just laying here. What is your favorite part about welding each and every day?
My absolute favorite part about it was just I'm the welder. They depend on me to get out there and make those welds. It made you feel like a star. It really did. You know, they really depended on you. So it was just a great satisfaction to get up every day and go to a job where they're like, "Hey, we need you, weld this, weld that, weld this." So of course I enjoyed welding, but I enjoyed just going there and being the man, you know, to get the job done. Sometimes on the job, I was the only guy, the only welder. And that's what I really enjoyed, was just being the only guy. I didn't want to deal with all the other welders, because it's always a pissing match. I felt like, oh, why is he getting the big pipe? Why does he get to weld all that? Right. It's like, I'm just quick and I'm slick, and they want it done fast, and they want it done nicely. I've been doing it a long time. You know, that's all. I like what I do. My speed is my speed. Don't try to compete. I'm not here to compete, man. I got my one speed I weld at, and that's what I do. My old boss, Dan Smith, used to call me a racehorse. He's like, "Well, it's a racehorse. You just open up the pin and he just runs. Just let him run." And that's what I am. Give me all the welding and I'll run. I'll run hard. I'll run all the welds.
Tell me about your family.
I'm a father of 4. My oldest son, Jeffrey James, is 18. I actually had him prior to my wife that I'm married to now. You know, I had him at an early age, 21, and he lives with his mom, which is fine. You know, I don't see him often now that he's 18, which is understandable. When I was 18, I kind of just disappeared.
You bet.
He's working full time and got a girlfriend full time. So, you know, he's living his life. My other son, Dominic, he's 14, getting ready to be 15. Just, you know, another spitting image of me like his brother. They're both spitting images of me. Just wonderful boys. I love them. They're just like me, you know. And then I got my 2 little girls, Araya and Avea, and they're 11 and 5. Actually, Avea turns 6 here Monday when I get back, so I'll be taking the day off to spend it with her and her birthday. You know, and then my beautiful wife that I've known for 16 years and been married to for 15 years is just, you know, the love of my life. Of course, like any marriage, there's up and downs, and you know, there's struggles, but love is what keeps us connected and keeps us going strong. And I'm just thankful to have her in my life and, you know, be the father I am to my wife and kids. You know, just I love it. I love my life. I really do. I'm very dedicated.
You know, most tradespeople I talk to are like, "Look, I love my life. I love what I get to do."
Yeah.
You know, I tell people all the time, I'm living the most blessed life I could ever imagine. The most amazing life I could ever imagine. I get to talk to tradespeople from all around the world. I get to do a lot of cool stuff. And speaking of cool stuff, what are your hobbies? What do you do when you're not working?
Well, I like to do a lot of stuff. I think that, you know, just being with my family is my biggest thing. You know, if I'm not working, I like to go do family activities with them. We like to go to the state parks, you know, and just mostly spend time with them. As far as like my hobbies beyond my family, you know, I mean, motocross, rock climbing, snowboarding, you know, Colorado, Rocky Mountain living, you know, being outdoors mostly. I'm an outdoors kid, man. Just being outside in the wilderness and backpacking. That's what I enjoy doing the most.
Do you think that a career in the trades helps you do more than a lot of other people?
Yes, absolutely. I was able to, you know, travel all around the world with the money I was making. You know, I went to Rome, I went to Italy, I went to Greece, I went to Paris, went to the Bahamas, I went to Jamaica, just recently took the family to Cancun. You know, I mean, I haven't been everywhere in the world, but it's allowed me to do all those things, you know, for the career that I'm in, and the money I make has really opened up opportunities like that for me. A couple years back, I had an institute reach out and bring me out, wanted me to judge their high school welding competition and engage with their students. And that was great. You know, I mean, we're meeting kids that were like shaking in my presence. And I was like, look, I'm nobody special, bro. I'm just me. Yeah, I'm just me, man. Like, yes. I give him a hug. I'm like, look, I'm no different than you, bro. We both got eyes we can see out of and a heart pumping in our chest. We're no different, man.
It was the same way this last week.
And so, I'm a genuine person. People might judge me from the book on the cover. I got tattoos. I might look a little rowdy. But honestly, I'm a genuine sweet person. I love people and I love to talk and I love to give insight and love to share my ideas. And that's one of the biggest things I've always done is just share my ideas. Like people will say something and I'm like, oh, and then I go into a big old idea. Well, maybe if you did it like this. And I like to inspire people, be an inspiration.
So where can people find you on social media?
You can find me on Instagram as Wally's Welding World, or you can search me on YouTube as The Weld Professor. Yep. Pretty much those are my two platforms. I do have a Facebook page, Wally's Welding World, but other than that, I really don't do any other social media, just Instagram and YouTube to be my platforms for my audience.
Which is your favorite?
I really love the Instagram. I really do. I love it. It's been my baby for a long time. I met a lot of great people from there, and that's pretty much where I've met a lot of people. But, the YouTube platform is awesome. I love it. I was just awarded the 100K plaque, and that was awesome.
Silver play button.
Yeah, cool. I'm going after that million. I'm planning on really engaging more with my audience now and doing more videos. I mean, probably YouTube now is going to be my most favorite platform because I'm going to probably put all my eggs in that basket as of right now. Instagram is great, but it just doesn't allow me and give me the opportunity. I feel like YouTube is. Yep.
Cool. Mm-hmm. All right, so this has been fun.
Yes, it has.
It has. I mean, getting to talk last night, hanging out this morning, and we still got more stuff to do. But I want to ask you to go back to that first day you walked out of your house to go work in the trades. Very first day, you get to go talk to young Wally. What do you tell him based on what you know now? If you could go back and talk to yourself the first day you walk out to go work in the trades, what advice would you give him? What would you tell him?
Oh man, that young Wally, that poor kid. I really don't know what I'd say to him, to be honest. I feel like that kid really had his head on straight. If he would have, I don't know. I don't know, man. I'd have to really think about it, of what I would say to him. I think the first thing I'd probably do is smack him because I know he didn't have his stuff together.
Why didn't he?
Well, young Wally was just trying to figure it out. He really was. I didn't really have a lot of guidance. Once I broke free from home, I was just kind of out there wondering. I think my advice with him would just be like, because I had a mentor then, one of my good buddies, but he passed away when I was really young. And that was a struggle for me too, because he carried me to the next job and then passed away. Man, my advice for Wally is just like, no matter what, like, you just got to keep planting the positive seeds in your mind. Don't plant nothing negative in it. Don't ever plant nothing negative. Because where I am at in my life today is that's it. We live our life on what we plant in our minds. If you plant negativity in your mind, it'll blossom just like anything else would that you plant in your mind. That's what I'd go back and I'd say. Just focus on the positive, plant only positive in your life and in your mind, and anything that is negative, disregard it immediately and don't focus on it. Don't let it come to life. Because I think back then as a young person, we let things just kind of get in our mind and corrupt us. And we let that seed just blossom into something that could be corrupt. And I think that happened to me as a young kid, just being around wrong people and listening to the wrong things was planted in my mind. And it just didn't go where I wanted it to be. And so I think if people focus, especially me, if I would have focused on just the positivity, boy, I'd be a lot further than I am today.
I love that. Man, this has been fun.
Thank you, Roger. It has.
No, thank you.
I'm a nobody, man. I'm just Wally. I'm a welder. You don't even know who I am if I have my hood on.
well, the cool thing now is I can tell my audience, if you're not smart enough to be a plumber, you can always be a welder.
You can always be Wally.
Thank you, brother.
Yeah, thank you.